I'm Jan with Jan Patek Quilts, and I do needle turn applique. And what we're doing now is a series of table stand quilts that you can either use on your table stand, both sides, the other side has the log cabin, or you can put them together, all to get the blocks together and make, well, it's not a full-size quilt, but it's a big wall hanging quilt or a throw. And it's called the calendar quilt, obviously. Anyway, what we're going to focus on today is Santa, and it's challenging, as Jenny would say, because you have areas where the tree goes over Santa and then where it goes in his hand and under it. So I thought I'd show you how I handled that area right now. The first thing you do, of course, is follow your freezer applique instructions and cut out your freezer paper pattern of the tree, and then draw around it. I use, since this green's nice and green, my white sew line marker because it gives me a nice fine line, and this is a very small tree. What the freezer paper board enables you to, or the sandpaper board enables you to do, is just hold the pattern in place, and then the fabric won't wiggle as you draw around it, and you don't even have to have it ironed on. I didn't have this ironed on, and I drew around him, and he worked just fine. So now we have him drawn on there. We're going to draw our little trunk on too. This one is ironed on still, didn't come loose, but it will come loose now, and you just pull it off, and so now we have our tree and our trunk. And then what I did was base down, because straight lines are kind of difficult, and we have to stick this underneath the tree when we sew it on to the block. So I basted it down just with a big easy basting stitch, running stitch, both sides, but not the top and not the bottom, because the bottom's going to go under Santa's hand and the top's going to go underneath the tree. Okay, now what we need to do, and I should have, I've got one. Okay, we need to clip the inside curve of the bottom of the tree where the trunk is going to go. Okay, and then I take my needle, and Milner's size 9, a big comfortable needle, knot one end of the thread. Last night when I was doing this, I knotted both ends. That doesn't work very well. Anyway, here's the running stitch you do that I did on the other, and we're just going to baste under where the tree trunk is going to go. And usually they go in the center of the tree. Okay. Now, oops. And it really is best, even though they're big loose stitches, if you can keep them kind of close together when you're basting things that are on a curve. Okay, so now we've got that basted under. Now what we need to do is back up a little, and I'm trying to see, yeah, I thought so. The thin area goes under his hand, the thicker area is going under the tree. And you've got your line where you drew around it, so you know that's where it's going to touch the tree. Now you go back with your basting thread and baste the trunk in place. And if you're real lucky, your thread doesn't knot. No, it didn't. Good. It just looked like it did. Okay, so now we've got the trunk sewed to the tree. Okay. Now we're actually, since we're through drawing and we're through drawing all that, we're gonna flip the board over and get our block. Now, I didn't do the whole Santa because I don't need another Santa block. I've already done 2 of them. But I did enough so that you can see what I did. You'll baste the edge here of his beard so that you know, and you baste under this right along the edge here and here where the beard is going to go over it. If you left the seam out like it is down here, you'd be sewing the seam open. So you have to baste that under, and then you can sew the beard on to here, and you basted it under up here. In the Santa block, you would also have his bag. There, it would go right there. Then baste under the end of the arm, and then sew, and then baste under the edges. See, I did it in different colors fabric, so you can, or thread, so you can see where the basting was. There, I basted this here, and then I basted under the edge of his hand. Okay, I didn't sew it down, I just basted it under. Then you sew the arm on, and you've already sewed the beard on. Because what we're going to do now is take the hand and put the tree under it and over the beard and over the coat. So it will look like he's carrying the tree. Okay, so now we've got that. Ah, he's not quite under. You've got your line that you drew that shows where it goes under his hand. Okay. All right. Now, what we'll do, this is very easy. Now you just applique his hand down. And I would go ahead and do that now. And then you can applique the trunk down. I would go ahead and do that now. But I'm not going to do that because that's just simple, straight applique with your applique stitch. And if you need to know what the applique stitch, basic stitch is, again, it's in one of our beginning videos, so you can go back and watch that. Now we're working on the outside curve on the tree, and we're going to trim it down. It was a good 1/4 of an inch, or about a 1/4 of an inch. I wouldn't trim it, cut it that way to begin with, down to about 1/8 of an inch, because it can fray, and if it frays, your tree gets kind of very misshapen anyway, like it grew crazy. Now, you're going to go around this outside corner, and you're going to use your needle and pull it around to the stitching line. That line you drew when you traced the tree was your stitching line. You're gonna just take a couple, 3 stitches relatively close together so you don't get points, and then just turn it in, and if you turn it under, and if you get a point, which I did right there, you just stick your needle under there and pull it under till you get it where you want, and then clamp it down with this thumb. There we go. Now, see, that made us a really nice, neat little outside curve. Now we're heading for the inside curve. I have already clipped this, and what you do is you don't just clip it once, you clip it 3 times, because this is a curve. You don't want a point on the inside. You don't want a point on the outside either, but you don't want points. This is, so now that you've clipped it there, there, and then here, you can take this, your needle, and fold that whole line under and stitch up to the curve. And I've held this tree in place with a pin, clover silk pins, because they work so well and don't pierce well, they pierce the fabric, but they don't leave holes in the fabric. They go in very easily. I've done that instead of using the applique glue because when we're doing the inside curves, what we're going to need to do once we get close here is take our little tree and turn it under. And if you've glued it, it's a lot harder to do. And then take your needle and do the curve. Just slide it under. And then once again, on the inside and the outside curves, you want to take very small, close together stitches. Now that we've gotten that, and I think I'm going to have to, yeah, I see a little piece of fabric trying to stick back out. We won't let you do that. We will go back and take a binding stitch to hold it under there. And once you get this down, which I have over the last 25 years, it probably won't take you guys that long. Really, a couple, 3 trees will do it, or maybe even one. Just small stitches close together, and I do, as I mentioned before in my tutorials, a very good job of listening to TV because I have to take my glasses off while my husband watches it. And I only have to once in a while say, what happened? Back it up, I want to put my glasses on. Okay, we're going to need to trim this again. All right, now we're going to trim it a little. Like I said, you don't need to get it too close because you want to have something to turn on. Under. Okay, and you just do the same thing we did. Almost always, the first time you fold, you're going to get points, and then you have to push them under and pull them back out. And that time I got 2. This thumb plays a kind of important part when you're doing this because it holds things in place once you get them there with the needle. There. Now. Okay, now we're about to the outside there, and we'll turn it under, and we'll keep turning it under, just like we did that one. And when I'm teaching classes, I try to include something like this and also a star, because if you can get this whole tree under, when you get home you'll remember how to do it. So just if you're at home now, which I assume you are, just keep practicing. And this will have to be trimmed way down. This one was, but keep going and you will have a very cute little tree like that when you get through. Okay, to recap, we're doing the Santa, and he can be a little challenging because we're doing his tiny tree, and part of the tree goes on top of the Santa and part of the tree goes under his hand. So we have to base things under as we go and layer them, so then once we've got the tree put together, we can slip it under his hand. His arm has already been sewed down, but not his hand until we put the tree in place. Then we just simply start sewing the tree down using very small applique stitches and trimming the tree as we go and folding it under. So we hope you've enjoyed this tutorial from Jan Patek Quilts. If you have, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks, and have a good day.